मीटिंग आईडी सेंड करा है हैं? मेरे को यूआरएल सेंड करे हैं।
अरे बोल ज्वाइन कर लो जल्दी से। अब देखो आवाज आ रही है? हरे कृष्णा। हरे कृष्णा। हरे कृष्णा। ठीक है, जाओ इसको बंद कर दो। हरे कृष्णा सुशोभित प्रभु।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु।
So we are waiting for couple of more devotees. We'll start in 2 minutes. So is my voice audible to everybody? Hare Krishna, Himanshu, Sushobit. It's audible, right? Oh, okay, Prabhu. If it's audible, then I'll start. And So I hope the screen is also visible to you. Yeah, so I'll start now. So Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna devotees. So welcome to this Bhagavad Gita introduction bird's eye view, and thank you very much for joining. I hope every like all of you are doing good. And do you guys have any question from last session, like the coronavirus question asked by one of the devotees? Because today's session also will be interactive, so we will be asking you questions in between. So if you guys have any doubts or any questions from the or any comments from the last session, please feel free to ask right now. And then at the end of the session, anyways, we will pause for the questions from the present session. Am I audible to you guys? Because you guys are not audible to me. No voice is coming from your side.
It's audible. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. So Shobit Prabhu, I think you are audible.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Any
It's
questions,
audible, Rajat.
Prabhu, from last class? How did you feel about the class?
Prabhu, I was thinking about that question, the coronavirus question, and I had a different interpretation from what I heard last time. Hello.
Okay. Can you be a little louder?
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Tell.
I was
So we will try to address that question in today's slides also.
okay.
So anything apart from that?
No, nothing about nothing.
Okay. And any questions, any clarifications from you, Himanshu Prabhu?
No. For
Okay.
now, I don't have any questions.
Okay, cool. So we'll start now then. So today we will be covering the Bhagavad Gita introduction, overall view, and the sequence in which Srila Prabhupada is presenting it. So first of all, I would like to offer my humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and the gratitude for whatever he has given in the form of Bhagavad Gita and the entire Krishna consciousness process. So this is Srila Prabhupada. So this is the overall synopsis which we will be going to cover today. So this is the bird's eye view of Bhagavad Gita introduction. First, we will cover why another Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada mentions in preface that so many Bhagavad Gitas are already there. So why another? And then we will cover what is the purpose, what is the spirit in which we should understand the Bhagavad Gita, and the contents of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the subject. So then we will cover the subjects in detail. So subjects are the Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Karma and Kala. How do they interact with each other and what are the results of that interaction? So after covering the subject in detail, we will uh, like we will emphasize more on the importance of godly consciousness, that why it is important to develop godly consciousness to come out of this cycle of birth and death. And then subsequently we will cover on the features and potencies of the Supreme Lord, because in order to develop godly consciousness, we should understand what are the properties of the Lord, what are the qualities, what are the pastimes. And once we understand the basic features of the Supreme Lord, then we will cover the Sambandha, like what is the relationship of the Jiva with Ishvara, which is the Sanatan Dharma, and which is our natural Swarupa in serving the Supreme Lord. Then Prabhupada covers the different religions and faiths, which are what, what are they and what are the results of following such different faiths. Results are we achieve different planets, like different planets of demigods or forefathers or heavenly kingdom, or lower planets like hellish planets. And then what from among this different sets of faith, what is the recommendation of Bhagavad Gita, which faith we should follow to attain the supreme abode of the Lord, which is our happy position and from where we would not like to return back. And then following the recommendation of Bhagavad Gita, we will cover the specific importance of remembrance of Supreme Lord, that why is it important to remember the Supreme Lord to attain that particular faith, which will help us in attaining his abode. Then, like, if remembrance is important, then Bhakti Yoga is the means to remember the Lord throughout, and then we will cover on the 9 limbs of Bhakti. And finally, we will conclude that why Bhagavad Gita is such a purifying and nectarian scripture, and what is the aim of that scripture. And yeah, that's it. That's the overall presentation. Yeah, so first of all, why another Bhagavad Gita? So Prabhupada in the preface, he mentions like there are so many Bhagavad Gitas in the market. So why another Bhagavad Gita Prabhupada is writing? So basically, every medicine which is given by the doctor, it has to be taken according to the prescriptions which are written on the label. So till now, most of the Bhagavad Gitas which are written by the scholars or non-devotees, they are giving the rendering of the Bhagavad Gita based on their mental concoction. They are not understanding the Supreme Lord's mood, and therefore the Bhagavad Gita has to be given in the proper disciplic succession, where the person is a elevated devotee who understands the acharyas from whom the Bhagavad Gita rendering is coming, and who understands the mood of the Lord and relationships between the devotees like Arjuna and Pandavas and Arjuna and Krishna. And Lord Krishna himself says that Bhagavad Gita is like he is telling it to Arjuna because Arjuna is his very, very dear friend. And uh, that's why it is very important to hear the Bhagavad Gita from a devotee. And Lord also tells Bhagavad Gita as it is only to his devotees, because devotees are very, very dear to him. So, like while assimilating the Bhagavad Gita, we have to interpret Bhagavad Gita according to the will of Krishna. So, what is the will of Krishna? That our acharyas know. That because they have absorbed the mood of the Lord and they have heard from their own acharya or their own spiritual master. So Bhagavad Gita is to be taken as the personal instructions of the Supreme Lord, because Krishna is appealing personally to all the living entities that uh, please pay, please obey these scriptures so that you can come back to me. I also don't want you to suffer, and that is your happy position to come back to me. So yeah, so even in 4th chapter, like as we mentioned that Arjuna was a very dear friend of Krishna. So Krishna explains that Sa evam mayate dya yoga prokta puratana bhakto si me sakha cheti rahasyam hitaduttamam. So bhakto si me sakha cheti. So Krishna is revealing his heart to Arjuna only because Arjuna is a very dear devotee and he is his supreme friend. So, like on the right side, you can see an example of a person who is dealing with the machinery. So, if you or I go into a complicated factory and try to work with a machine, then we will hurt ourselves. So, that's why even if for assimilating this Bhagavad Gita and trying to assimilate, trying to bring this reading in our own life, we have to take guidance from a bona fide spiritual master, and that's what the prescriptions on the label means. So one question to you guys would be, like, when a doctor decides to give medicine to you, suppose you are suffering from a disease, then what procedure do you generally follow to take that medicine? So it will be an interactive session, so this is just a question to you guys. Any thoughts?
So we take the recommended dosage of the medicine.
Yeah, very nice. So generally, the prescriptions which doctor has given, in that prescription you will take the medicine. For example, doctor writes that you have to take this medicine twice a day, morning and evening. Then you will take only in that manner. Otherwise, if you take instead of 2 times, if you take 5 times, then your whole body can cause havoc. So that's why a similar thing goes with the Bhagavad Gita. We have to take from a person who is self-realized and take practice under the guidance of that bona fide spiritual master. Otherwise, one man's food is another man's person. So this distinguishing a realized, self-realized soul has. So that's why Prabhupada is giving this version of Bhagavad Gita, which is directly coming under disciplic succession. Next, Prabhupada mentions that how to best make best use of this rendering of Bhagavad Gita. So first is the what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? So at the end of introduction, Prabhupada mentions that if this Bhagavad Gita is able to make at least one pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, then he would consider his attempt of this Bhagavad Gita successful. So, like as we were discussing, in previous days, there is a verse in third chapter. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudvasva vigata jvara. So if we perform our prescribed duties, concentrating our mind and attention on Krishna and without desiring any profit or fame and without feverish mentality, then that is the major purpose of the Bhagavad Gita, and that will gradually bring us to pure devotion. So this is about the purpose. Second thing is the subject. So what are the contents of Bhagavad Gita? What different chapters are classified into? So the subjects are Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and Karma. And we will see in the subsequent slide how they interact with each other. And third is like in what spirit we should accept this Vedic scriptures. So we have to accept it in a submissive consciousness. So we have to cultivate devotion towards Lord, and by such submissive consciousness and devotion, we will gradually assimilate and bring this sound vibration into our hearts, and we will understand by the discerning mercy. So that is the spirit. So now we will discuss the subject in detail. So Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Karma, and Kala. So Ishvara is the Supreme Lord. Jiva are the minute living entities, you, me, everybody in this material world. And Prakriti is the mother nature by which Jiva has to interact in various ways. So based on how the Jiva interacts with Prakriti, there are different karmas, good karmas, bad karmas, and based on the accumulation of those karmas and manifestation of those karmas through the facilitation of Kala, we facilitate our destiny. So based on the karma and based on our actions in this life, we will get a subsequent body in the next life. So jivas are covered with different subtle and gross bodies. So basically we are spirit souls, which are jivas, but right now we are covered with subtle coverings, and those subtle coverings manifest into this gross body also. Because of these subtle coverings, we are governed by these three modes of nature. As you can see on the right side, the puppet, which is like beneath the sky, that is the living entity, and the three, like you can see the three modes of nature which are acting like queens, which are having threads in their hand. So you can easily see that the puppet is totally under the control of the modes of nature, and these strings are very, very strong. So unless there is a person who is free and beyond these modes of nature, it is very difficult for a living entity to come out of these modes, basically. Yeah. So out of so Kala is the time based on which this cosmic manifestation takes place. In the subsequent slide, we will like cover how this is happening. So one more question to you guys will be, what do you think among the subjects, among these 5 subjects, is everlasting and which one is temporary? So yeah.
Karma is everlasting.
Karma is everlasting.
Yes, because you have to reap the benefits, or you have to suffer depending on the karma you have performed. That's why I say it lasts in the sense that you have to see the fruits of your actions. In that sense, it is everlasting. But the karma also, uh, again, the other perspective would be, it will when you bear the fruits of your karma, it will go away.
Yeah.
So Prakriti is everlasting, if I'm not mistaken. Jiva is also everlasting. Jiva is the soul, right?
Yeah, yes.
Jiva is everlasting. It says Prakriti is also, it's an extension of the Supreme Lord. So also Prakriti or Maya, right? The other name would be Maya.
Correct, yeah.
Is that so? Maya is also there. It's permanent. Kala, I think it's also permanent. It stays. It's eternal.
Okay, very nice answer. Himanshu, any opinion, like any views out of these five things?
Yeah. Kal Samay is everlasting. I mean, we remain or not, or would we die, but the time will be there forever. And about Pragati, again, Pragati has a control over all the souls. So it's not just talking about us, but for rest of the people also. And Karam is subjective for each other person. Like, uh, जिस तरह कर्म करोगे उस तरह से मतलब आगे प्रोग्रेस होगा बेसिकली जीव का जीव एज इन सोल का सो if you are able to elevate yourself and you realize that what maya is doing onto you, and if you are able to get outside the control of the maya and you are able to attain the higher ground, then you can actually uh, elevate your jiva also. And so jiva is also eternal, prakriti is also going to be everlasting, as already mentioned. So yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, so everything except karma is everlasting, which is eternal. So karma is temporary because like when you perform devotional service, it gradually dissolves, and we when we reach the spiritual planets and what is our eternal happy position of serving the Supreme Lord, there is no karma in that stage. Thank you very much. Very nice answers. So now we will discuss the relationship between Ishvara and Jiva, like how this cosmic manifestation comes into place and how a jiva is covered with the gross body and the subtle body. So basically gross body and subtle body are the like are the forms of prakriti. So if you see that words bhumirapo analvayo kham mano buddhirevacha ahankar ityamme bhinna prakritirashtada. So in this, first five elements are bhumi, apo, anal, vayo, kham, and three subtle elements are mano, man, buddhir, and false ego. So man is the heart, and buddhi is the intelligent, and third is the false ego. So all these eight things are covering the living entity, and these are forms of the material nature. So second is the kala. So kala is the
Uh,
time. Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. What was the third thing? Intelligence, mind, and
false ego.
sorry,
False ego.
false ego. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So these are subtle coverings which are covering the living entity. So kala is the eternal attribute which is facilitating the movement of living entities, and they're dealing with the karma. So if you see on the right side, I'm not sure how much this picture is clear, but Mahavishnu is lying on the Garbhodakashayi ocean, and on the body, spiritual body of Mahavishnu, all the spirit souls are sticking. So at the time of cosmic manifestation, out of the navel of Mahavishnu, there are numerous Garbhodakashayi Vishnu which emanates, and each Garbhodakashayi Vishnu enters into a universe. And Shirodakashayi Vishnu is residing as the super soul in all living entities. So if you see at the bottom, the arrows, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and into every golden universe, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and Shirodakashayi Vishnu is the super soul in each living entity, and it enters into every atom and the hearts of every living entity. So basically, every jiva has a relationship with Ishvara. And because of the misuse of the independence, and since we are covered and we have tendency to tendency to enjoy and desire to do sense gratification, then Lord creates this cosmic manifestation for fulfillment of those desires. So Krishna creates this Prakriti periodically for a particular reason. And that particular reason is that somehow we will get purified and we will turn towards him and gradually come towards him. Actually, Krishna doesn't wants us to suffer here. And he wants us to lead us back to the spiritual one. So this is the basic idea of the relationship between Ishvara and Jiva, how Jiva has turned rebellious and Ishvara wants to uh, rectify that rebellious mentality. So now, since we are covered, so there are two different types of consciousness. One is material consciousness and one is spiritual consciousness, which is godly consciousness. So if we have material consciousness, then we act on our bodily platform and like we remain entangled in the material world. So, so in order to reform our consciousness, we have to move towards godly consciousness. So the subsequent slide will discuss what is this godly consciousness and what is the importance of cultivating this godly consciousness. So as Prabhupada mentions in the introduction, that there are two types of consciousness. One is material and one is pure. So when one is totally absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme Lord, then our consciousness purifies and it tends towards pure consciousness. And goal of the Bhagavad Gita is to take us out of bodily conception. So when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, when we hear the sound vibration, then our bodily conception decreases more and more, and we tend to develop higher taste in spiritual activities. So that is the way to develop godly consciousness. So when we like do these spiritual activities, we develop a taste in them, and then our our normal spiritual form of serving the Supreme Lord gets manifested and developed. So there is a verse, Mukter, in this verse is in Padma Puran. Mukter hitvanyatharupam swarupena vyavasthiti. So once we are situated in our swarupa, swarupena vyavasthiti, then we automatically get liberated. So we don't need to strive separately for liberation. We just have to serve the Supreme Lord under the directions of a bona fide spiritual master. Then automatically our spiritual form will awaken more and more, and we will realize our eternal constitutional position. And the like, what can be the next step to like achieve this godly consciousness? Is that Supreme Lord is the enjoyer. So if we try to satisfy the Supreme Lord, then we automatically we will be satisfied. So famous example is watering the root of the tree. So if we water the root of the tree, then automatically all the branches, all the leaves will get nourished, and we don't need to water the branches separately. Similarly, if in a body, all the organs act for the satisfaction of the stomach, and they act for transferring the food to the stomach, then stomach, by digesting the food, it naturally transmits all the energy to the rest of the body. So if we feed the body separately, like to the finger, we are feeding something separate, then it will not work. So similarly, if we satisfy and act for the pleasure of Krishna, then our senses will be purified eventually. So there is a verse for this also. Rishikesha Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uttama. So Lord is called Rishikesha, which is giving pleasure to the senses. So when Lord is happy, when Lord's senses are satisfied, then we will automatically feel satisfaction in our hearts and in our senses. And by that satisfaction, our consciousness becomes purified, and our actions will be dovetailed to the will of Krishna, and thus we become spiritually happy. And once our consciousness gets purified, then our senses and mind also get purified, and then we can do actual bhakti. So under purified senses, we can actually feel how sound vibration enters in our heart, and it stimulates the loving feelings for the Lord. So purified activity is bhakti. You cannot perform bhakti with impure senses. That's why in the initial in the initial stages, we require the guidance of spiritual master very, very much. So this is this is a step-by-step beautiful process of bhakti, that we have to act, we have to endeavor for purification of our mind and senses, so that we can gradually cultivate godly consciousness. So this is a like picture for watering the root. Like somebody is throwing water on the roots of the tree, And once the water reaches the root feels nourished from the soil and the water, and indirectly all the arrows are indicating that how nourishment is flowing from the roots to the different branches and leaves of the tree. So this is the beautiful process of Krishna consciousness also. So now, like, we understood that what is the importance of cultivating godly consciousness, so that we don't entangle ourselves uh, in material consciousness and in the lower modes of nature. So in order to further strengthen our relationship with Krishna, we have to understand the features and quality of the Supreme Lord. So now we will discuss that what are some of the features and potencies of Krishna, and what are different levels of realization of God realization. So Lord Krishna in his two-handed form is called Shyam Sundar, and this form is a Satchidananda form. So in this form, Krishna is all attractive, he is supremely blissful and full of knowledge. So so first step of realization is the impersonal realization. That is that we realize that we are not this body, we are soul, and this is the Sat feature. So Sat means eternal. Satchidanand can be broken down into three subroots, which is Sat plus Chit plus Anand. So Sat means eternal, which is the first step, which is the soul realization. Second realization is the super soul realization, which comprises of the Sat feature also and Chit feature also. Sat is the eternal, Chit is the knowledge. So when we come closer to super soul, then we are able to distinguish what is the thing which we can do, what is right, what is wrong, what will be pleasing to the Lord. So those directions come directly from the super soul. So that is the knowledge which we cultivate. So we have already realized that we are soul and we are not this body, and nobody can do any harm on us by harming our body. But additionally, we realize that there is a super soul existing in our own body, and we get indications from that super soul that what is right, what is wrong, and those indications we can clarify from Guru and Shastra. And third is the final stage of self-realization, which is the Bhagavan realization. So in the Bhagavan realization, we realize the personal form of the Lord, which is full of eternal knowledge and bliss. And in this form, a pure devotee is able to see the form face to face, and he is able to interact with him, and Bhagavan, Lord, directs him personally. So these are like different qualities and features of the Lord. And as you must have heard that this process also goes parallel to like these three steps of realization, which is Nam, Rupa, Guna, Leela. So first we realize the Nam, that the holy name is Krishna himself. And once we develop an attachment for the holy name, then we realize the Roop. Roop is that this holy name is also having a form. Krishna also has some form. So we get a little bit more closer to Krishna and realize his different forms. That we are also realizing that we are not this body, we are the spirit soul. Then our spiritual senses get awakened. So Nam, Roop, Guna, Leela runs parallel to these three steps of realization. Yeah. So these are.
Rajat Prabhu, I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
So this Satchit Ananda, does this constitute a part of Gyan Yoga?
No, Prabhu. This is just only the features of the Lord. So when you practice Bhakti Yoga, this Satchidanand form is revealed to you in your heart. So Gyan Yoga comprises of distinguish between the body and the soul. So that is a subset of this Satchidanand, basically.
Okay. Okay.
Does
So
it answer?
Satchit Ananda is the umbrella term. Under that, we find Gyan Yoga. Is that correct?
Yes, Prabhu, yes. So the first step, which is the impersonal realization, that is indirectly the result of the Gyan Yoga. So for Gyan Yoga, there is a famous verse, tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha damena cha tyagena satya shauchabhyam yamena niyamena va. So these are the different activities which a Gyan Yogi does to stay on the spiritual platform. So Gyan Yoga doesn't involve any sinful activities, but the sinful tendencies remain. So it only comprises the impersonal realization of the Lord.
The Sat feature will remain in the Gyan Yoga. Satchit would not come.
Yes, Prabhu, yes.
Or okay, okay.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your question. So, so in order to cultivate godly consciousness, till now we have like covered the different features of the Lord so that we can strengthen our relationship. And now we will discuss more on the Sanatan Dharma. So we are talking about the Sambandha. So what is the relationship of a living entity with the Supreme Lord? So here comes the concept of service. So whatever thing exists in the mother, in this nature, it has a quality. So for example, if you take banana has a tasir which is cold. Mango is also a fruit which has a tasir which is hot. Similarly, sugar has a property of sweetness. So every natural thing which is provided by the Supreme Lord has a property and has a substance inherent to it. So similarly, the living entities, the pure soul, has a property of serving the somebody. So service is the Sanatan Dharma of the pure soul. So Sanatan means which does not have any beginning or end. So the pure soul, so if you see in our daily situations, like either we are serving our families, our husband, our wives, our children, or we are serving our parents when we were in school, or when we are in office, we are serving our boss, or like we are serving our senses. So when like we are not able to, like we know that some things are wrong, but still we do by the impellings of the senses. So in those situations, we are serving our senses. So indirectly, we are serving one or the other person. So that's why we have to redirect our service to the right object. And that right object is Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And that has to be done under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So this is the Sanatan Dharma of the soul, that the soul has to serve the Supreme Lord, through which it can awaken its natural constitutional position. And if you see the introduction, after explaining the Sanatan Dharma, Prabhupada mentions about non-Sanatan Dharmas also. So when we are in this material world, we are in a particular country, we are in a particular family, we are in some situation. So sometimes we start identifying with those situations, with the country, with the political party, or with the family. So those are non-Sanatan Dharma, because that is not permanent. That will after a certain amount of time it will change. Yeah. So these are some non-Sanatan dharmas, and like this slide talks about the different faiths and their fates, because according to the faith which we acquire in this particular life, we get the next body. So the first point is the different religions like Muslim, Christian, and Hinduism. They are different perverted desires of a living entity. And according to the faiths corresponding to the modes of nature acquired by a particular soul, he gets attracted towards a particular religion. For example, in Bhagavad Gita also, sometimes we get attracted to different, like particular section of this Bhagavad Gita. For example, the description of the lust. For example, like people who get like this verse is there in the 7th chapter. People kamestastir hitagyana prapadante anya devata tam tam niyamam asthaya prakritya niyata svaya. So those who like demigod worship, they get attracted to these sections of Bhagavad Gita. That like this verse explains that if suppose somebody has some perverted material desires, then they go towards demigods to fulfillment of their desires. But Krishna says that those indirect gifts also are coming through me. So for sure they are satisfied immediately by the demigods, but indirectly I am the only one who is fulfilling those desires. So yeah, so according to our faith, we develop a different propensity of worshipping a different living entity. And like as a result, in the 23rd verse in the same chapter, uh, Krishna mentions that what is the result of doing such actions in different faith. So antavaktu phalam tesham tad bhavatyalpamedasam devan devyajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. So those who have less intelligence, alpamedasam, they worship the Supreme Lord for temporary fruits. And those who worship the Devas, they attain the planets of the Devas. Devan Devajoyanti. And Krishna says that those who worship me, they come to me. But Mat Bhakta Yanti Mamapi. So similar thing we can see on the right side. So there are four different situations given here. First, on the topmost portion, devotees are serving the Lord in the temple very, very nicely. Jagannath Baldev Subhadra is there and Radha Krishna is there. And as a result, they are getting lives of cowherds who assist Krishna in their pastimes. In the second, a person is giving charity to a Brahmana. So as a result, he is elevated to heavenly kingdoms and he is doing kirtan for the pleasure of the Lord. And in the third, if you are addicted towards like meat eating and liquor, then you will get a pig's body, because in the pig life also you have similar like propensities. And if you are addicted to too much illicit sex, then you will get a dog body, because dog's propensity is like that. So are you guys able to see this picture clearly?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So one question here, like what are the three features of the form of the Lord? Like till now, whatever we have discussed, I wanted to, like if you guys want to answer. So the question is, what are the three features of the form of the Lord? Himanshu Prabhu and Sushobhit Prabhu, please.
Yeah, I remember you showed a slide that names were difficult to remember. Sorry.
Yeah, you asked the Jnana question also.
It was, I guess, before that. Yeah.
So three features of form of the
Three
Lord.
fe- okay, three features.
So first is
Hmm,
the Sat to start.
Satchit Ananda.
सदगुण नहीं सदगुण रजोगुण तमोगुण की बात तो नहीं कर रहे ना
नो मतलब ये लॉर्ड के फॉर्म्स है, मतलब these are not modes of nature. What you just answered
ओके
are the modes of nature.
ओके
Satchit Ananda.
Sat, Chit and
ओके
Anand. So three
हाँ
features or three properties of the Lord, as just Sushobhit Prabhu said: Sat, Chit and Anand. Knowledge
ओके
and so Sat means eternal, Chit means knowledge, and Anand means bliss, supreme bliss. So now we have discussed the Sanatan Dharma and non-Sanatan faiths and their result. So next, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that what faith as devotees we should cultivate and what Bhagavad Gita recommends so that we can achieve the supreme abode of the Lord, and what are the descriptions of that supreme abode. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, Krishna says and describes the environment of Vaikuntha. न तद्भासते सूर्यो न शशांको न पावका यत्कत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तत्धाम परमं मम. So these are the descriptions of the Vaikuntha. Like there is no need of sun or moon there, but living entities are having their bodies in a self-effulgent form, and there are cool breezes of wind blowing around, and spirit souls are just happy in serving the Supreme Lord. So our real happiness is in serving the Supreme Lord, and similarly, all Brajvasis are also feeling a lot of bliss and happiness in just providing happiness to Krishna, and just like sticking to that shelter. So if you see the Govardhan Leela and various demons which Krishna killed, like in the starting when demons came, Brajvasis were a little concerned, but once like they came in the shelter of Krishna, they were totally relaxed, and they all always concentrated on the supreme form of the Krishna, and they were not at all worried about anything at all. So these spiritual planets, Bhagavad Gita recommends that we have to like cultivate absorption of these spiritual planets. What are the environment there, and we have to hanker for it. so that in this material body and material life also, by doing the spiritual activities and hankering for that situations, we go towards the spiritual planets in the next body. So for example, when we are sitting in India, when we were doing IIT or any engineering, we were hankering that we will go to US and we do higher studies. So somehow by Supreme Lord's intervention and sanction, that gets fulfilled. So similarly, if in our present body we hanker for going towards the spiritual world, then according to our activities and our propensities and our qualification, Supreme Lord will sanction our entrance into the spiritual planets, where it is all blissful. Yeah. So this is what Bhagavad Gita recommends. The faith is the mode of goodness faith, and the result is achieving the abode of the Supreme Lord. So what? So next is Prabhupada emphasizes on the remembrance of the Supreme Lord. So what? So this is one thing which helps us in cultivating godly consciousness. So when we remember Krishna in all our activities, then we become more and more attached to it. We develop love for him. So even if you see like discussions between Krishna and Arjuna and in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is always recommending Arjuna that you fix your mind upon me and then fight without feverish mentality. So then again, Arjuna is asking many questions. And like even Arjuna in the 6th chapter, if you see this 33rd verse, so yoyam yogastvaya prokta sammena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat sthitim stiram. So even a saintly like Arjuna is a very very qualified living entity, and even for living entities like Arjuna, it was becoming difficult to accept what Krishna told in the form of Dhyana Yoga, the process of Dhyana Yoga, that you have to go to a secluded place and you have to like straighten your neck and you have to give it support and then concentrate in trance. So after hearing all these things, what Krishna heard from Arjuna was that like my mind is very fickle and I don't see this happening with me. And then Krishna clarifies Arjuna's understanding, and at the end of the 6th chapter, Krishna gives the process of like the starting of Bhakti Yoga. So what he says, Yoginam api sarveshyam madkatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktamo mata. So we don't need to go to the secluded place and like do the tapasya and concentration on the trance or on the super soul, because in this age it's very very difficult. So like instead we should follow this verse. So Shraddhavan bhajate yoma. So with full faith and devotion, we should worship the Supreme Lord. And with that worship, we will be able to fix our mind and intelligence on Krishna. And then Madgate Nantaratmana. So I will be with him and he will live with me. Madgatein Antaratmana. So that is the special mercy of Krishna, that he gives the facility for the living entity to live with him. So our thoughts are, when our thoughts are filled with Krishna, Krishna is actually living in our lives. Yeah, so that's why remembrance of the Supreme Lord is very important. In the starting, it might appear superficial, but gradually, when we cultivate spiritual qualities, then like different devotional activities, and we develop a taste for different qualities of devotees, then we realize the bliss of like our relationship with Krishna. So that's why, as the second point says, realizations of scriptures from scriptures is also important, because scriptures are the breathing of the Lord. And when we read various interactions between the devotees and devotees interacting with the Lord, then we become attached to those devotees and Lord more and more. And then our mind is engaged in higher and higher topics, which is the positive engagement. And another way is to like doing it by hearing and chanting. So when we chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, then we develop that spiritual relationship with Krishna, and our love for Krishna awakens in our heart. So this is a gradual process. And by hearing means we have to hear from the authorities. We have to hear from a bona fide spiritual master, so that that sound vibration can stimulate the love for Krishna in our heart. So that's why remembrance of Supreme Lord helps us in cultivating a godly consciousness. So after emphasizing on the remembrance of Supreme Lord, like Prabhupada says that what is the importance of Bhakti Yoga? Because ultimately, if you start performing Bhakti Yoga, then all these things like cultivating the mode of goodness and like going towards the anchoring about the spiritual planets and experience of spiritual emotions and remembrance of the Supreme Lord, all these things will be indirectly achieved by that Bhakti Yoga. So this slide describes the different aspects of Bhakti Yoga and what is the importance of doing Bhakti Yoga in this age. So this is the Navida Bhakti, and this slide describes the 9 limbs of Bhakti, like the ways in which you can cultivate devotional service for the Supreme Lord. So here, like Prahlad Maharaj is speaking these words to Narasimhadev to enhance the glorification of the process of devotional service. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktischena Navalakshana Kriyate Bhagavati Yadha Tanmanye Ditam Uttamam. So, so would you like to like recite with me first 2 lines of this?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu
Shravanam Kirtanam
Kirtanam
Vishnu
Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam
Smaranam Pada Sevanam
Archanam Vandanam Dasyam
Archanam
Archana
Vandanam
Dasyam
Sasyam
Sakhyam Atmanivedanam.
Sakyam
Sakyam
Atmani
Atma Nivedanam.
Okay, once more we'll sing it together in the same tune. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu
Vishnu
Smaranam Padasevanam
Sevanam
Archanam Vandanam
Archanam Vandanam
Dasyam
Dasyam
Sakyam Atma
Sakyam Atma
Nivedanam.
Nivedanam.
Very nice. Thank you so much. So these 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So, like these are the this is the translation of this verse. And if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you will find that there are different saintly personalities who perfected their lives means they achieved the Supreme Lord just by processing one of the limbs of bhakti. For example, first process Shravanam. So Parikshit Maharaj is the favorite example. For Kirtanam, Sukhdev Goswami is there, and Smaranam, Prahlad Maharaj is there. So like this, for every limb of bhakti, there is one acharya. So yeah. So like till now, like this bhakti yoga, we have in the previous slide we have emphasized on the importance of practicing bhakti yoga and what are the forms in which we can start practicing bhakti yoga. So these are some more attributes to it. Like we should start practicing bhakti yoga under the guidance of spiritual master, like which is very easy to do, and that's why there is a quotation from scriptures: "Tat vijnanartham sa gurum ev abhigachet." So one who has realized this knowledge, to that guru we must approach. Tat vijnanartham means one who has realized this knowledge. Sa guru means that guru ev abhigachet. We must approach that spiritual master. So ev means must and abhigachet means approach. And spiritual activities in Bhakti Yoga starts with hearing and chanting, which are the stimulant for the dormant love uh, in our heart for Krishna. So now the question is, what is the first limb of Bhakti and which saintly personality perfected his life by performing that? Any thoughts?
Shravanam was the
Yeah, very nice. And like any saintly personality which we mentioned for Shravanam? Himanshu, any clues?
Uh, uh, Raja Parikshit.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Because if we see the first canto of Bhagavatam, at the end of first canto, Maharaj Parikshit starts hearing from Sukadeva Goswami, because he was bitten by a snake, and he death was approaching him very fast in next 7 days. So next 7 days he did not eat or drink anything, but he just drank the nectar of Krishna Katha from the mouth of Sukadeva Goswami. So Maharaj Parikshit just perfected his life in those 7 days by hearing from Sukadeva Goswami. Yeah, very nice. Thank you. Like till now we have covered everything in introduction. So every slide was corresponding to around 4 pages of the introduction. Introduction covers around 40 pages, and each slide was around 4 pages. So this slide is corresponding to the last 2-3 pages, and this is the conclusion. Like uh, like Prabhupada wanted to emphasize the importance of Bhagavad Gita, and emphasize the importance of practicing devotional service, so that we can uh, realize the ultimate aim and goal of our human life. So Bhagavad Gita is a transcendental literature which one should read very carefully. So for the glorification of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada mentions Gita Shastram idam punyam yapathet prayata puman. By following the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, one can be free from all miseries and anxieties of life. Yeah, and I think, and so would you guys like to share anything, because I know that both of you are have attraction for Bhagavad Gita. So any portion of Bhagavad Gita which you have read and felt it really helped you in your personal lives, and getting free from like some problems or some anxiety.
I just find peace when I read the Bhagavad Gita. I,
Yeah, so Shobhit Prabhu, would you want to go ahead?
yeah, can you hear me? Hello? Hello.
Yes, Prabhu, you are audible.
Yeah. So I was saying, it just keeps you going when you read the Bhagavad Gita. It gives you better understanding of what is going on, and so that you know the reality, and it keeps you going, and you are also confident in what you are doing when you read the Bhagavad Gita, and you know what is what. And that's why I like to read the Bhagavad Gita, and I gain motivation to do my actions in a according in a manner which are uh, which are prescribed in the book. Yeah, yeah, that's all.
Very nice, Prabhu, very nice. So you were mentioning that, like with by reading Bhagavad Gita, you were able to understand that what is right, what is wrong, whether I am doing what I am doing is correct or wrong, and I get really my confidence increases when I like see that my actions are aligned with Shastra. Right.
And also the Gita is it has many functions. It works at a philosophical level, it works at a psychological level also.
Correct.
So it understands your emotions. You dissect your emotions, what is going on. So it gives a microscopic view of what you are, like emotionally. And a spiritual aspect is a different one. So we all know what the that's the real aspect. But as in a human form also, these are the things which are also relevant from a human perspective, in this bodily perspective, psychology and philosophy.
Yeah. So basically, you feel that connection to the Supreme Lord, and those emotions and that like feelings awaken for the Supreme Lord, and we feel that connection. Yes. Okay. Himanshu Prabhu, anything you want to share, like Bhagavad Gita?
So I think that there's no one learning from the Bhagavad Gita. It's a continuous process. Because sometimes it happens that you might be facing certain dilemma in your life. Sooner or later, you will get the answer.
Yeah.
Uh, then there are lots of other things, like in different chapters, it has been discussed that how should we do our karma, and who is the favorite one of the god, what are the qualities of a saintly person, and and some of the teachings, I think most of the teachings are very practical. I mean, you can actually implement it. Some are very difficult. Even today, it's like controlling senses and mind. I think it's a gradual process. Then the Lord has also mentioned that if you can't do the yoga and sit in a samadhi, at least you can practice bhakti yoga. So I mean, there are lots of ways of learning and getting close to Krishna. Apart from that, how one should lead his life, there are lots of learnings from this spiritual book. So yeah.
Yeah. So Krishna is very accommodating. Like he's saying that if you can't do this, you do this, and if you can't even do this, then you do this. So 12 chapter is a very nice learning for that. Very nice.
Yeah, and he's very forgiving in the sense. I mean, everything is like, I think in one of the in one of the chapters it was also mentioned, even if you have done Ghor Paap and everything, but if you chant the name once, all the I mean, you can actually start your life from the scratch in the eyes of the Lord.
Yeah. So as soon as you start chanting this holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So immediately you capture the attention of Krishna. So Krishna sees that this living entity is trying to come towards me. So you take one step, Krishna takes 100 steps. So gradually you will feel that presence of Krishna in your life. And then your heart, the purification of the heart. And then with the association of devotees, you will feel that, yeah, I should take this step, I'll take this step. Then it's all about taking more and more steps towards Krishna and feeling that purification and that your spiritual form getting more and more enhanced. Yeah, very nice. So personally, I also like when I read Bhagavad Gita, sometimes I'm feeling some anxiety or some problematic situation in life. I feel that that problem reduces to a speck of dust because my consciousness gets elevated after reading Bhagavad Gita or reciting Bhagavad Gita. So as you guys have also mentioned, like I also felt that. And so lastly, we will conclude with this verse, like how uh, Gita Mahatmya defines the definition of Bhagavad Gita. So Gita Mahatmya says, Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopala Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gata Amritam Mahat. The Bhagavad Gita is just like a cow, and Lord Krishna, who is a cowherd boy, is milking this cow. The milk is the essence of the Vedas, and Arjuna is just like a calf. The wise men, the great sages, and pure devotees are to drink the nectarian milk of Bhagavad Gita. So, so this is just like a cow, and Krishna is milking this cow, and Arjuna is drinking that nectar. So, are you guys ready to drink the nectar? Because this is just a like first slide of introduction.
We are
Yes,
ready.
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, that's it from my side. Any questions or anything?
No question.
No questions. So I think I'll try to answer that coronavirus question which was asked yesterday in the last class. So, so Shobhit, do you remember that question? Can you repeat that question?
So the question was about COVID and the impact of COVID.
Yeah. So the question was that amidst this COVID situation, people are asking now, where is your God? Why is He not helping you? because people are suffering so much, so he should intervene and help them. And why is he letting them suffer? That was, I think, the question. So
Yeah.
basically, is it correct? So
Yes,
shall we?
Prabhu. Yes.
Okay, sure. So. So basically, there is a verse in fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Na, this is the 14th verse. Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhu na karma phala sanyogam svabhavastu pravartate. So Lord does not interfere with the free will of the living entity. So this is one thing. The next thing is he does not take responsibility of the bad karma which the living entity does because of his free will. So that's why this coronavirus situation is the result of the bad karma of people in this age. And this bad karma is coming because of cow slaughter and meat eating and none of the regulative principles being obeyed. So that seemed to be the most like logical answer to me. Yeah, if you guys want to like share your views, you can share. Yeah, yes, so Shobhit Prabhu and Himanshu Prabhu, are you guys there?
Yeah, we are here.
Yeah. So does this answer look okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So I think we'll continue next weekend. And so what do you guys think? Like, should we delve deeper into the introduction or should we start with first chapter in the next class?
I think we can actually discuss about the different shloks in that chapter, and we can go in the chronological order. Like in the last class, we have discussed the third chapter. In this class, we discussed about, I think, fourth chapter, right?
This is the introduction. So
This is the
now the
introduction.
Bhagavad
Okay.
Gita will start. So this is
So
the
we can
platform for
okay.
you. Hmm.
First, in even though I say the first chapter is the introductory chapter, we can actually. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not significant. I'm just saying that we can
Yeah.
proceed from the second or directly from the third, because the second and the third chapter were discussed in the last class. So
Hmm.
it's up to you. I mean,
Sure, sure, sure. So basically, there is a festival coming which is known as Narsimha Chaturdashi, which is on Thursday. So on Narsimha Chaturdashi, Lord Narsimha Dev gave darshan to Prahlad Maharaj when Prahlad Maharaj was facing difficulties with Hiranyakashipu. So we will try to discuss some things next Sunday also about Narsimha Chaturdashi.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajat Prabhu, for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Manchu Prabhu. Thank you, Sushobit Prabhu. Thank you, Satyavrat.
Thanks. Bye.
Prabhuji, just a second. Hare Krishna, Satyavrat Prabhu. Would you like to add or like clarify anything?
No. Thank you very much for presentation.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your presence. It was like it is very supporting.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Take care.